Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to wherever you may be or whatever time you're watching this. Welcome to the second episode of the LVM podcast. My name is Rebecca Benny, and today we're talking about what is homicide, why it matters, how it's viewed through social media or media in general, and the homicide community. So, when I say the word homicide or ask you what the definition of homicide, what usually pops up in your mind? When I've asked a few people, most of them said the word murder popped up, and which isn't completely wrong, which is absolutely right, obviously. Murder is a type of homicide, but there's more to that. As murder is always a type of homicide, but homicide is not always a murder. So, going into more depth about that, homicide is a very general term for the acts of killing, regardless regardless if it's intentional or unintentional. Some may be considered illegal or legal killings. And when I say that, I mean, some killings are protected by law when it comes to war or, policemen and any type of government official for, whatever it is considered, with that. Now, I just want to make this clear. I am no way in some type of law expert. This is all based on research that I've done. I'm just trying to, raise awareness on this topic because, obviously this is all still very new to me, regardless of what people may think. I'm doing my part to share awareness and I'm doing my best to research all of this. And let me tell you, when it comes to homicide, the legal system is confusing and super complicated. And, specifically homicide is so confusing. But besides that, it's confusing in general, as we all know and have seen this year. But that's a different conversation. But yeah, moving on. This also varies by state. So everything I'm about to tell you guys, it varies. But I will just give the gist of everything that I've researched. Now, so continue and moving forward. Homicide is a general term, and there are two specific categories under that, which is murder and manslaughter. So, most of us know what murder is. Murder is usually known as the premeditated side of homicide. It's totally planned. This person wants to do it. They know exactly what they're doing, and they have the intent of killing the person. They know it's going to result in death. That is the point of murder. Now, the whole point when it comes to the legal side of it, they have to have a malice aforethought, which is the bad or the, like I said, the intent of, wanting to kill the person. That is the main point of murder. Now, under murder, there are two categories, first degree and second degree. This is kind of where it gets a little bit confusing. First degree is, pretty straightforward. That's the premeditated part. They knew what they were doing. They were planning it, and that's it. But second degree, there was no premeditation. They knew in the moment that they were going to kill the person, but they weren't really planning to do it beforehand, if that makes sense. It's just that first degree, premeditated. Second degree, it's not premeditated, but they knew and aware of what they were doing. So manslaughter is usually associated with the unintentional part of killing a person. Also could be, associated with accidental, killing. There are also two categories under that: voluntary and involuntary. So, basically, this also varies in other states. And honestly, this is where it kind of gets a little bit confusing. Voluntary and second degree murder can get pretty mixed up based on all the research that I've done. So I'm not going to get into the details of which each is. I'm just giving the gist of which each stands for. Voluntary manslaughter is, usually associated with in the heat of passion. So for example, if someone is in a heated argument and, starts to get physical, they don't have the intent of killing someone, but then, an accident happens and the person dies. That is, in the heat of that moment. Involuntary manslaughter is usually the accidental part, such as a car accident. You get in a car accident and the person dies. You weren't intending to kill the person, and it's just, honestly, that's even more difficult to even talk about. But usually most car accidents will be associated with involuntary manslaughter, unless, some states have vehicular manslaughter. The name is in the definition. The definition is in the name, however that goes. But yeah, these are the main things, So this all matters. I'm just going to give a little quick recap of everything I just said, because I know I have a tendency to ramble. So homicide is the first, general term. There we go, at the top of the chain. Homicide. Under that, we got two categories: murder, manslaughter. Under murder, we have first degree, second degree, and then under manslaughter, we have voluntary and involuntary, and then varies by state. They have other degrees if they want, or vehicular manslaughter. Homicide is a general term for killing a person. Murder is usually premeditated, and manslaughter is usually accidental and unintentional. That is the main point I'm trying to make about, the differences between each of these. Like I'm saying again, I am not a law expert. I'm giving the gist so that we all know and aware of these things, as I'm about to explain why does this matter? Why am I telling you this? So, awareness. I'm just going to keep repeating this. Awareness is important. You never want to be in a position where you're having a serious discussion about something and then you start, assuming that you know of something and it offends the other person. The only reason why I say this is because I have been in this position, a couple of times. And here is my first example. So after going through an experience of having someone in my family murdered, it brings a totally different perspective to everything. The word murder in general just triggers me, only because, my brain would just be like, oh, so, maybe this person knows of something, or just, kind of gives you that little flashback of a moment in life. It stays with you. It is what it is, kind of. So the way that 2020 has been going on, considering COVID and other deaths going on, someone that I knew of had a very close loved one pass away due to a car accident. And I saw that they posted somewhere that they were murdered. Now, as I explained how complicated the legal system already is, because you can get certain terms mixed up, and also it all varies by the intent and everything else going on. It triggered me only because they said car accident. I'm just like, why are you saying murder? Like, in my mind, obviously murder is totally they have the intention of killing you and wanting you dead. And I'm pretty sure that the person that was behind the wheel wasn't trying to kill their loved one. It was accidental. Car accident. It makes sense, right? So I'm just like, why would you use the word murder if you're going to describe like what happened to your loved one. I'm just like, say that they were killed, because that is the truth. They were killed, and it's unfortunate. And I totally understand, when you're in going through the motions, you are expressing what you feel, and I totally understand that. Everyone's different on how they express how they feel, and I'm not disregarding that fact. But at that moment, I was just like, why are you trying to twist around the situation and make it seem like it is something different than what it was? So, and then this happened very recently when I started researching like what homicide is. I'm just like, I started realizing, technically it could be considered second degree murder by law. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go into the details of the accident that occurred. It's all very wishy-washy in a way. I don't know. But, it's like kind of like one of those things where you just can't be quick to judge, because you never know the situation. Let's say I didn't know the situation and I could have been wrong, and like, let's say I brought it up to the person, it would have been like a heated debate, and I probably would have offended them, and I would never want to be in that position. So, yeah. But it's just like, I feel like, that person could have been more aware of the terms that they were using, and I could have been more aware of, like, I mean, I didn't say it in public, but, let's say I did. But you get the point. It's just that there's different categories and classifications of homicide. It's just like, I don't know. I just didn't realize how complicated things could get. But yeah, and the thing is, it's like, the more I think about it, I'm starting to realize that I myself started to categorize homicide only as murder. And that is a huge mistake on my behalf, because I never considered the other components that are under homicide, the other categories, because, homicide is just a general killing. And I feel like, what happened to me was probably like, considering, I guess, on the chain of homicide, it's like one of the worst case scenarios. And, I don't think anything is worse than the other, but according to the law, it's just like that one was more severe than what someone would classify with an accident, if that makes sense. So that's probably why I got a little bit irritated. And, I'm just going through what I was feeling. But moving forward, the second example that I have is when my mother recently passed, and I was handling it well, but the way that I was processing it and having to share it with others wasn't, I guess, handled in the best way, maybe. Only because I was afraid of what other people were going to say or how they were going to react. So I tried to tone it down or dumb it down, just so that people don't get as like shocked or, I don't know, like really just, yeah, pretty much shocked by what I'm saying. I didn't want them to feel awkward or just like, oh my goodness, like, oh, I'm like, sorry about everything. I'm just like, okay, like, I'm just not that type of person. I just don't like dealing with that. I just like to move on. But regardless of that, there's a situation where I was trying to explain what happened to my mother, and I said something along about how I used the word accident as a way to describe it, and I was helping my dad write something, and I can't remember. I just played it off, by saying the accident that occurred. Yeah, the accident that occurred to my mother, or something like that. I probably was stating, and my dad stopped and he looked at me, and it's just like, that look that parents give you and the tone that parents use. He was like, it wasn't an accident. I'm just like, why are you getting all serious on me? Like, dang. And it was very recent, but I'm just like, I didn't mean it in that way. I didn't mean to offend you. But, I think I understand now, like, when it comes to terminology, we all know what accident means. And, he was like, it wasn't an accident. It was intentional. And I kept trying to tell him, like, that's not what I meant. He's like, no, it doesn't matter. It's just that it wasn't an accident, period, point blank, period. I said that wrong, but you get the point. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I obviously don't say it's an accident anymore. I mean, only I've come to the point where I can say what it is, but I also have I'm a little hesitant on how to say it because people's reactions are just like, you know, it's so weird, to see others react to it. But it's human, and it's a human thing. We all got to react to things. I understand cuz I still react to things like that even if I heard someone say like, someone was murdered in their family, I'll just be like, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry." That's probably how I would react also. Forgetting, regardless of like what I went through, like I would still react the same way. So, I understand. So thanks to my dad for knocking that into my mind, knocking sense into my mind because I'd really, yeah. So the reason why I was explaining these two different examples to you guys is just to show how being unaware about something important, such as, the topic about homicide, can be offensive to others when you're having discussion. It's because it can blow up in your face, and obviously you're going to offend the person, and you just don't want to seem like you're ignorant, especially on this type of topic. You want to be respectful, in a way, and I feel like sometimes our only source that we have is the media, the internet, or social media, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that because I obviously got the information I looked up on the internet, but I'm talking about more of like the TV shows that we watch, such as 60 Minutes that come at night. We also have Law and Order, Criminal Minds, CSI, other things like that, and even cold cases about murder mysteries that have gone unsolved. There's nothing wrong with watching these. I'm not perfect. I definitely am one of those people that watch these things. And we all know how terrible homicide is, and that's probably why it grabs our attention. We want to know how and why a person would even do such a thing. But it's like sometimes we don't ever like actually think about the family members that have survived that traumatic event in their life and how they've been affected. I mean, granted, regardless, of how social media and media can twist things, there's a lot of good within the media. We have, I think, bringing awareness to the families is obviously the first step. And, there's also fundraisers that occur through social media, through the community, which is also great. But, I'm talking about the people that we never hear about. And even the ones that we do hear about, we don't know about them because we move on after a certain amount of time. And that's human nature, I believe. We get invested in something and then, we're on to the next thing. And I just feel like, we may move on, but those families, they can't. And it's so important that we think about what they are going through. Which leads me to the difficulty of finding a community of homicide survivors. Only recently I started to look into other people who have gone through the same situation as me. And there are a few communities out there, especially on Facebook. And they're small communities. They're all great people, honestly. They all talk about what they have been through and how they're going through it. And I don't know. It's unfortunate that they don't get the awareness that they need. When finding these groups, I would see like, small groups that within each state, I guess, that would help each other, which is great. Something is better than nothing. But I wish there could be something more national, which I think is taking a bit more time. Like when I was trying to find everything for this brand about raising homicide awareness, it was so difficult to even find an awareness ribbon, like the ribbons that we have for each type of cause that goes, awareness ribbons, I should say. And the ribbon that I found is not even official. And so it's just kind of like, well, how do we get to that point, And even the month and the day aren't super official yet. I think the day might be official, but that was very recent. The awareness month was actually from November 20th to December 20th. It's only official in Massachusetts. It's still being in the process of being nationally accepted thanks to Miss Ayanna Pressley, who is the U.S. representative in Massachusetts. So I think that's, a huge first step, and it was only introduced last year. So I don't know how, considering the legal steps, it might take a while. So I don't know. But I think, small steps are going to happen, and hopefully there can be more awareness raised for this, which is why, I obviously started this. Hopefully I can get to that point where I talk to other people about this, and then maybe, it goes nationwide. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But right now, I'm just sticking to this podcast. So, as I have fallen off a little bit, I apologize. I hope, all of you can see how difficult it is at the moment to raise awareness for homicide and the survivors. I hope that I have brought some type of new knowledge that you can share with others. If you know about the legal system and about homicide, I appreciate you for knowing. Thank you for knowing. And if you didn't know, I hope, I helped. And I hope that we have learned something new, because doing this has definitely taught me something I have never known, as I said. And I'm learning the same amount as you guys are. This is a learning process for me. I've only started recently doing this. And if you would like to help me spread awareness about homicide and homicide survivors, please, subscribe if you would like. I'm trying to have this podcast on other platforms, but it's still processing at the moment. So for now, it's on YouTube. So hopefully you guys will join me in the next few episodes, and I hope you guys will join me on this journey. Thank you. Bye.